Hello there. About a week ago, I made a video about the LFT testing and how accurate the LFT testing is for COVID. And I wanted to do a video now about the COVID injection and how much protection it does give you, and look at it more from a mathematical physics point of view. And you can trust me because I'm a physicist. Okay, about the COVID injection, there's different, sometimes even contradictory information around on how much protection it provides. Reports show somewhere between 70 up to 95%, and this would be 1 week after the second injection. So you get the second injection, then after 1 week you would be fully protected. But fully protected means up to this 70 and in some cases 95%. Johnson Johnson brought out a vaccine that needs only one injection and is effective after 14 days. So ask your doctor if this is relevant for you. One thing can be said, however, all the injections, they do have a positive effect if you become ill. So regardless of how much they protect you from becoming ill, also when you become ill, there seems to be an effect that they help people to milden the symptom. However, again, this is solely statistically. So one question remains now, and this is actually the reason, one of the major reasons why I made this video, one of the two reasons is, what after only one injection? So what happens after one injection? Am I protected? Am I not protected? Again, this is unclear, but the one thing that is clear is it does have a positive effect. And so when you become ill, it's statistically, the chances that you develop very severe symptoms is somewhat lower, and you also have a lower chance of infection. The question now is, by how much? There's only one report around from Oxford which says that there's a 76% protection rate after 22 days after the first injection. However, this study is based on their own vaccine, and you cannot simply transfer this to other vaccines. Okay. One thing is clear, and this is very important. The injection needs time to become effective, which of course makes sense. Once you get this injection, it takes 1 to 2 weeks, is often mentioned, also the British government mentions it, is 1 to 2 weeks that an injection starts working in your body, which also makes sense because your body the idea of an injection is that your body creates the antibody, and your body needs some time to create these first antibodies. Okay. Now the question is, what is this, the injection itself, now the way out? Now, there have been quite a lot of reports about Israel around, which has developed into the leading injection rate country in the world. There are more than 50% currently injected already. And in January, February, the cases went down strongly after the injection started. But in the last couple of weeks, the negative gradient of the 6 statistics curve has flattened out. And so people ask themselves, has this something to do that the vaccine is not working as well as we saw, etc., etc. Now, one of the things was exactly these biological reasons. So are there biological reasons? I personally don't want to say anything about this, but my own opinion is that it does not. I don't think that you can make really any conclusions after such a short time. However, one thing that can be said, that from a pure mathematical point of view, and how the spreading of such a disease works, this whole thing does make sense, because if the decline, this very steep decline, would have continued as it has been, it would have reached zero by now. And this is almost impossible because there will, of course, some infections going on, even with the vaccine. And also, well, there are still 50% which are not vaccinated. But still, okay, the question is this vaccine the way out? Now, most people, the first thing, if you look at these Israeli cases, most people in Israel, they have have only had one injection so far. That's a fact. The second thing that I wanted to, so it has not really started to be fully effective. The other thing that I wanted to look at is what is risk. Now, risk is a word that's used very often in common language, but it is interesting that you can actually risk to, in some sense, you can calculate risk. And this is something that I wanted to show here. So risk is you can think of risk as sorry about that, as on one hand, the probabilities that something happens, and then when it happens, the probability how negative the effect is. Yeah? So in our case, this also makes quite a lot of sense. If you think about it, there are lots of things that can happen, and we do them, and we don't feel any risk with it because they have no negative effect. On the other hand, there may be something that has a huge negative effect, but we still don't think that anything is risky because, well, the chances that it happens is very low. One thing, for example, could be this sort of talk about it in a more funny way is that a brick could fall on your head. You know, what's the probability that a brick falls on your head is extremely small. On the other hand, if it did fall on your head, well, it would have a very negative effect. Still, I think nobody is really afraid of falling bricks for very reasonable reasons. Okay, now in this case here, the first that something happens is the infection rate itself due to behavior. So the probability that something happens, that you get exposed to the virus, has of course something to do with social behavior. Now the negative effect is what is the danger level. That once you get you get exposed to this to the virus, A, that you get the virus, and B, what will be your sickness. And this is the danger level of the virus. Okay, now and I wanted to do an example calculation. Here, let's assume there is a chance of infection. I use a time frame of about 1 week, which sounds pretty reasonable. So over 1 week, let's say somebody behaves very well, you behave very well, you just go shopping, you're careful, you wear your mask, etc., etc., and you may even have to go to work. And let's say that the infection rate, the chance that you actually catch this infection is 1%. Let's also assume that the danger symptom is about 5%. So that if you do catch it, there is about 5%. If you are exposed, and you do catch it, then that you develop dangerous symptoms, where you have to go to hospital or even worse. Okay, now the risk that this is happening now is 0.05, which is the 1% from here, that it does happen, times the danger level 0.005. So the probability that it becomes dangerous. Well, if you do that, you get 5 in 10,000. Now, this may sound low, but if you have 60 million susceptible people, the number of new cases would be about 30,000 new severely sick people in 1 week. And indeed, there have been a couple of weeks in the UK, for example, where these 30,000 new severely sick people were reported over a whole week. Now, this, mind you, these are just numbers that I put in to show how such a calculation works. This percentage may be different and this percentage may be different, but the principle is correct. Okay, now let's look at 2 cases. One is good behavior plus the injection, and the other one is bad behavior plus the injection. Okay, now let's say we continue after the injections, after most of the population have the injection. The population continues to behave well, and the chance to be exposed to the virus goes down to 1% because of this social behavior. And the dangerous symptom the dangerous symptom now is reduced by 90%, because we said we have a 90% effectivity rate. We assume a 90% effectivity rate of the vaccine. So your new dangerous symptom is now 0.05. So the new risk is now this number here, which is 5 in 100,000. Now let's look at case 2, which is that after the injections are given, the injections are out there, people show bad behavior again. So they start partying, they don't wear masks anymore, etc., etc. Okay. In this case, the infection rate is back to this 10% or this 0.1. Now, the dangerous symptom, because you have the infections, is at the lower rate. But if you do the calculation, you end up with 5 in 10,000 again. So you're actually back at the very high rate that you had before you did the injections. Okay, so it's quite, the key thing is, it is quite possible in Israel that such a thing happened, that the injections led to a wrong sense of safety, and because of this wrong sense of safety, the recovery rate or this sort of decline rate has flattened out quite a lot over the last 2 weeks. In addition, there also seem to be ethnical sectors of the society who do not follow the guidelines of social behavior given out by the government. Third number of about 700,000 people or so. Now the question is the injection now the way out? Well, if you ask my opinion, yes, but people must remain cautious. The injection, the vaccine itself will not be enough to get a full grip on the COVID virus. And finally, I wanted to show you something else. In this video here, we used some quite simple mathematics. And although what I've shown is, in terms of concept, is correct, there are, of course, a lot more sophisticated mathematical models out there that model the spread of an epidemic, or a pandemic in this case. And as you can see, one of them is the SIR model, which are 3 differential equation, as you can see here. And if you have done further math or at university, then you may recognize them as differential equations. Now they are, by the way, non-linear differential equations. That means they are actually quite difficult to solve, but using certain assumption and certain clever combination, you get very valid results when you use this model, either as it is, or sometimes it serves as the base for an even more sophisticated model. And here you see also the terms and sort of words that were used before in the video, where you have S is the susceptible in the individuals, and this is the rate of change. So first derivative, if you remember that from school maybe, this is the rate of change of how many susceptible individuals there are, and this is related to how many are infected. Yes, and one of the important parameters here is this beta. There are 2 parameters here, the beta and the gamma, and the beta is the average number of contacts per time unit times probability of transmission, which is similar to the probability that something will happen in our simplified model. And gamma is the transition rate from infected to removed, because once you are infected, then either you become healthy again, or well, you may die. And this is another important parameter which we didn't consider in our simpler analysis, because compared to the big population, this is relatively small. Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to show you this is just so that you see there are also more sophisticated mathematical models about that can be used, and which actually forecast these epidemics very well. Although if I look at some of the governments and what the governments did, and I'm not sure that they actually used Terms model, because some of the stuff that did happen in the last year or so could have been forecasted very well. But anyway, bye for now.